century. It's been hovering around democracy. Everything has been hovering around selection of candidates. Everything has been hovering around selection of vice presidents. That's what the whole attention is now, the political space. So we're looking at Nigeria and global best democratic practices. We want to take a kind of an overview. We want to take a review. We want to take an analysis. We want to take an assessment of what has happened in the past 2-3 weeks. And then we want to look at the challenges. We want to see Nigeria and global best practices. And in between also, we look at the choice of the vice presidential candidate for the parties. So it's going to be a broad perspective. And I have somebody I'm really very glad, two guests actually here this morning who we will banter. We will try to look at these issues very well. Dr. Kule Alaye, a political analyst, I'd like to welcome you to New Dawn.
Thank you very much. It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you again. I hope you're prepared for what we're going to discuss today.
Why not?
All right. Olayinka Mustafa is also here, another public analyst, and it's always a pleasure to have you. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, viewers.
Okay.
Good to be here.
Thank you very much. So, gentlemen, Moses is also here. We're going to be doing it together. Moses.
Okay, well, let me start with the political scientists in the studio. 23 years of democratic experience, in Nigeria. I mean, how will you describe that experience? Thank you very much, Moses. Quite interesting. And when we talk about democracy, as far as Nigeria is concerned, it could look a bit sarcastic or ironical when we say we are still democratizing. A political scientist or someone that is well nurtured with the understanding of what democracy is will tell you that what we practice in Nigeria is a pseudo-democracy, quasi-democracy. In other words, democracy in a prototype. However, whether we like it or not, since you have electioneering exercise and peaceful change of government, whether with pockets of political violence or whatever, as long as you still have peaceful change of government in the last 24 years, in a particular political setting, you cannot but still say such a system is operating democracy. I think most times we tend to be delusional. I'm just going to be very factual here. Delusional in the sense that if we draw a kind of comparison with the way we operate our democracy, not peculiar to Nigeria alone, most of the third world countries, particularly in Africa, you will see that our democratic processes, or what we call democracy in most cases, are not usually aligned with the ideal, mark the word now, ideal interpretation of what democracy should be. And the reason is very simple. If you go back to the pre-colonial African states, the political system or structure that was put in place, which we call indigenous political system, like I make a reference to Kwame Nkrumah, the former Ghanaian president. It says, my people have been successfully managing their political system before the incursion of the white. In fact, the presence of the white rather brought distortion to the organized African political system. I take that again. My people have been successfully managing their political system before the incursion of the white. In fact, the presence of the white rather brought distortion to the organized African political system. What does that mean? What Nkrumah, the great Pan-Africanist there, was trying to say is that there was an organized political system put in place. There was an ideal political system. There was a pragmatic political system put in place. Peaceful political system put in place. That the invasion of the white rather distorted the whole thing. And that also justified the position that when, take for instance, Ghana gained independence in 1957, when from the same British, Nigeria gained independence in 1960 from the same British, the two countries, I will use the two countries as a variable now. Till today, if you draw, let me be immediate, let me talk about Nigeria. If you draw a comparative assessment of the pre-colonial system in Nigeria, where we have the constitutional monarchy of the Yoruba Empire. You go to the north where we have the absolute monarchy of the Hausa Fulani Empire. You go to the east where we have the egalitarian political system of the eastern part. You now come to the modern days, especially when we talk of maybe the Fourth Republic. Because the First Republic, as far as I'm concerned, was interrupted by the military coup in 1966, just within 3 years anyway. However, part of the allegations is that when the colonialists, I don't call them colonial masters in any case, because well, critics have said that they have only come for usual thing. Now, if you look at since the period that they departed, the system put in place, democracy, presidentialism, parliamentarianism, federalism, they are all imported phenomena. They are imperial slogans that Africans, Nigeria inclusive, are not well rooted. And that is why the way we're going to play our democracy, or the operational strategy or approach of democracy in Nigeria, or the operational approach of federalism in Nigeria, will be quite different from that of the Western world, especially if we talk about some of these European and North American countries.
I'm still going to come to you, Doctor, but then let's take on Mustafa here. We're looking at, I'm still going to take you on what you have just said, you know, and all of that. But now let's look at what has just gone in the past few weeks. Succession, because basically you say a democracy is successful if you are able to transfer power, peaceful transfer of power from one government to another. And we are starting that process again for 2023. Now, in your own perspective, vis-a-vis global best practices, would you give Nigeria a pass mark with what you saw, your candid opinion?
Okay, thank you very much. I will start from what you said, global best practice. Okay. What is global best practice? Whose standard are we following? Okay. America? Britain? Don't forget that in China, there is democracy. Okay. Their own way. And so, it depends on who you are following when you are talking about democracy. But then, if we look at what has transpired in the last 3 weeks, the primary elections and all that, I think we are not where we should be or where we're going yet, but we're making progress. Okay. We are making progress. Kunle said something. There are certain key elements, very, very vital, very, very important. Peaceful, when you have democratic processes, whether it is primary election, whether it is general election, how peaceful, how organized, how orderly were we able to conduct these elections. Now, you remember those days that during primary elections, people will just go, you just see one or two people, they'll just shoot into the air, go to the place, start to scatter the whole thing. We have moved away from, those era. But we are not where we should be yet. It's a journey. Democracy is a journey. It's not a destination. Okay. We are not there yet. But I think largely, I will give it to all the political parties, starting with the PDP, where I think the PDP started it, their primary, then the APC, ADC, and other political parties. It's been largely well organized, peaceful, and there are allegations of financial inducements here and there and all those things. And I also commend EFCC, because I think in recent times what they do in order to discourage money exchanging hands and all that is to send their operatives to the floor of the primary elections, which they did.
But some people will say that that was just
mere formality.
It was because the actual money is not distributed on
the floor of the election. But it is still a step in the right direction. It's a deterrent.
Structure take charge of how justifications for a political system can be said. What does that mean? If you are saying, or if you say Nigeria is a democratic state, why do we still have some flaws, some hindrances, some pitfalls that are antithetical to the ideal polemics of a democracy? I'm using ideal this time around because I want to differentiate between democracy and democratization.
Okay.
Nigeria, I would say, if I say Nigeria is not democratic at the moment, it is not that I'm glad about it, or it is not that I want to heed that blame on the political leaders alone. Rather, though they are guilty, but at the same time, I said earlier, when the colonialists were going to depart some of their post-colonial states, including Nigeria, they ensured that the system they put in place were distorted in a way, at such that you will always have reason to come to them. And that is what Kwame Nkrumah tagged as neocolonialism. He says neocolonialism is a process of giving independence through the back door and take it away from the back, through the front door and take it away from the back door. In other words, you have gotten independence, you have moved away from colonialism, but your political structure, your economic structure, your social-cultural structure, your educational structure, your military prowess, everything still depends on imperial control. Then you cannot have a good or an ideal democratic setting put in place, because everything, all those variables I've mentioned, justify or determine how an ideal democracy should look like.
Okay.
Anyway,
let me take you a little on that, because when you're talking about the fact that, and I also want, after that, I want Mustafa to also look at it. You're saying they should be blamed, the colonial masters, the colonialists.
To me.
Yes,
they are not my masters.
Yes, that's the word. They should be blamed. Now, they didn't, they have not come to help you. We first started with the parliamentary system of government. They didn't come to help you to rig your elections. They didn't come maybe you say the delineation of states, delineation of geographical delineation, partitioning now. Okay, maybe it is skewed in a form to aid one particular geopolitical zone or whatever. But at the same time, when it comes to the nitty-gritty of dealing with democracy, it doesn't have anything to do. Okay, eventually we said the parliamentary system wasn't going to work for us. In 1979, they had a constituent assembly. They said the presidential system of government is going to, but at the end of the day, you find out that what you are really practicing is not a presidential system of government. You wanted to copy America, you wanted to say the American system was, but you're not practicing the presidential. Is that a colonialist intervention or your own inadequacy that is manifesting within your political terrain?
Thank you very much for your question.
Yeah.
the process or the challenge since the departure of the colonialists till this moment can be what we tag political conspiritualism in political science. What do we mean as political conspiritualism? We're talking about the kind of conspiracy that tried between the imperialists. They become imperialists while they have left. But then they were colonialists, now they're imperialists, you know, because they have departed for their country, but they still control so many things. Fantastic. Yeah, you're very correct to say the blame should not be totally hid on the colonialists. I agree with you. And some of the blames, or part of the blames, you know, can still be hid on some of the political elites. I'm not exonerating Nigerian political elites. Get that straight. I'm not. But what I'm trying to say is that the democracy we have in Nigeria, the challenges for democracy in Nigeria was by a foundational problem. That was just the problem. Foundational problem. Foundational problem because it is you're talking about parliamentarianism. It was imposed on Nigerians in the First Republic. As at that First Republic where we operated parliamentary system, Nigeria was just coming from long age of colonialism. Nigeria had never practiced such a system. Nigeria was never rooted in such a system. I was making a reference to pre-colonial era. Sir, if you draw comparative assessment of the pre-colonial era, let me take like Yoruba Empire now, with that of the First Republic, the Yoruba Empire where we have the Alaafin, where we have the Yomis, where we have all the likes, that the doctrines were put in place. The Oba knew the do's and don'ts. He knew his boundary. He knew the punishment that guides his excesses and all that. Then, if you now compare it with the First Republic of the parliamentary system that was imposed on us, you will see that Nigeria was just a baby as at that particular time to get acquainted with the imported system. Parliamentary is an imported system. So, Tafawa Balewa, Prime Minister, Nnamdi Azikiwe, ceremonial president under coalition government, could not really, like, if you talk of one of the reasons the military gave that lured them or that instigated or triggered their intervention in 1966, they will tell you that maladministration, poor governance, and all that, even though they are equally guilty of that, but they will tell you that was part of the reasons they intervened in the military in 1966. So if you look at the trend of Nigerians' involvement in the poor structure of democracy, I will say, yeah, I'm not vindicating them, I'm not exonerating them, but the structure put in place before the departure or immediately after the departure were not enough for the political elites, even though they are also guilty to be able to manage an imported political system.
Okay, well, Mr. Mustafa, talking about, do you think our democracy is well defined to accommodate our ideologies, our cultures, our differences, so to say? For example, in Sweden, in Japan, in UK, what we have there is constitutional monarchy. In China, it's a one-party system. Yeah. In Ghana, it's a two-party system. Now, we criticize the 1999 Constitution. We criticize the fundamental human right, the rule of law. We say is not well entrenched, in our system of government. What discussion do you think we should be having? Is that democracy we practice, and what should be injected, what should be entrenched in that democracy to make it work?
Just to add to that, some people are of the opinion that even between the two major political parties, you don't really have ideological basis. You don't really have. We don't. Our democracy, we really still have a long way to go. That's one fact that all of us should know.
You do not have the party system the way you have it in the US, in the UK, even in some other countries that have solid, democracy and political system. We have political parties that are used largely as, tools or machineries to, for people to get into government. That's the reason why yesterday somebody will be in PDP. This morning the person is in APC. Next tomorrow the person is in AMPP and other parties because there is no ideology. We are not guided by so. But what we need to do is to keep refining what we have at the moment. If you have a very good Democrat, somebody that believes really in democracy at the helm of affairs, he will start the process of reformation such that, in the days of, if you remember days of IBB, he came up with the idea of SDP, NRC, a little bit of ideology during that time. The way he put it, a little to the left, a little, and so on and so forth. So it boils down to having real Democrats. In the days of Babawolowo, Azikwe, and all, we had it better. It was more refined because those were real Democrats with their philosophies. Not just to have political party. In advanced countries, you may have a political party whose focus at any point in time is not to grab power at national, but at regional level, because they have their plans, they have their programs, they have their focus. So we are not at that level yet in Nigeria, but that is where we need to go. So the conversation continues, the discussion continues, and of course there is a lot that we need to do to achieve through legislative processes, so that the way we go about our political parties, they need to be more regulated. The courts actually tried in recent times on this issue of defection from one party to the other party. There were pronouncements by the courts that if you move from one party to the other, you lose your seat. So if we entrench, those kind of practices, we will begin to refine our political process, but we are not where we should be at the moment. We need to emphasize that. It's a learning process, but we must learn. We can't spend 100, 200, 300 years and say we are learning. So the learning, we must keep learning, especially from advanced democracies and other countries that are practicing their democracy in a better way. So that is what we need to do as a country, but we keep moving.
Okay.
We keep moving.
Some political scientists will still say defection is part of the democratic experience. But Dr. Kundalaye, let me take you back a bit. Is democracy the best bet for Nigeria? We talk about China. China has the second largest, biggest economy in the world. And China is more communistic than democratic. It's more of a communist state. So is it the best bet for Nigeria, even for Africa? Because it seems democracy is not working largely in Africa.
Yeah, like former British Prime Minister Churchill, he says, and I quote, democracy is the worst form of government. Worst. He says, listen, he says, democracy is the worst form of government, but is the best among its peers. Okay. The worst form of government, but is the best among its peers. If you understand what Churchill was trying to say there, is that even though you can identify a lot of flaws, shortcomings, disadvantages with democracy, there is still no system of government in the world that can beat or that you can say is better than democratic system of government. That's what the man was trying to, the former British Prime Minister was talking about. Now, I think I need to, people have always been making that mistake about China. China is actually practicing state socialism. It claims to model communism. Yeah, it's a communist state. But theoretically, if you look at the empirical practice of the political system in our political economic system in China, it is actually what we call state socialism. But yeah, state socialism is neither communism nor socialism. So, because when you talk of socialism, you're talking about the means of production being completely controlled by the states. You know, when you talk of communism, it simply means that stratifications of, it means every member of the society is a state, a kind of classless political economic system where everybody has equal opportunity, and that's the system. But if you look at it critically, like some of those that critique communist practice itself says, communism is not a glorious dawn. In other words, it has not been visible anywhere in the world. You know. So, but now look at it just to answer your question critically now. You cannot compare any form of government with democracy, except we want to fool ourselves. Sometimes when people are so very, when sometimes in Nigeria, when people are pushed to the wall, you hear them saying, let the military even come back, say, the military government is even better. I'm pretty sure that they are just being emotional about it, because there is no government you can compare with democracy. But then you also need to understand one thing, that there is no absolutism anywhere in the world, there is no absolutism about anything. Okay. Definitely, whatever you consider to be the best will still have some limitations and shortcomings, and that's just the case with democracy.
Okay, now let me go to Mr. Mustafa now. You said we are not where we should be, but where are we really making progress? Looking at what just happened with the primaries, with the inducements, you know, and some people are saying that, you know, it wasn't actually democracy that was at play. It was money that was, and some people described it as a government of the few by the delegates for the benefit of the, you know, that's the kind of democracy. Can we really say that with these primaries that we've had, we have our best candidates on the front burner?
No. I won't say that. I would like a situation where, especially at the level of, if you are talking about governor of a state, you are talking about president for a country of over 200 million people. And then you have, how many delegates? 2,300 and something people converge in Abuja to pick a candidate for us. And that's the person to govern us for the next 4 years and possibly 8 years.
Obviously.
There's something wrong with that delegate system. Can we have primary elections that are broad-based, where it's going to be bottom-up? People, the level of participation will be much more than what we're having at the moment. We will have participation even by ordinary Nigerians, so that at the end of the day, you may have 10, 20, 50 people vying for the position, but at the end of the day, because of the level of participation from the east, from the west, from the north, up like that, until the final and the best comes out of the primary election. So what we're having right now is just selection by a few people who can easily be bought over, you know. It's very easy to achieve that. So it's actually not the idea
the bottom-up approach you just talked about can also be monetized.
No, but the bottom-up approach, I think that was what we did with option A4.
Option A4. And if you look at option A4, I think it was much better than what we are having at.
But can that work now?
I can see it.
Doesn't seem so. Can option A4 work now?
Well, I believe it can work, unless you have reasons why you believe it can no longer work. But you see, whatever name we call it, the key issue to note there is that the level of participation in selection of candidates for political offices should be deeper and wider than what we have at the moment. Call it any name, option A4, option B10, that is not what is important. What is important is that we shouldn't just have a few people, delegates. I think for one political party, one particular political party, I think they were not even up to 1,000 people to choose the candidate for the position of president of a country of over 200 million people. So we should have it broader and deeper, and it should take, it should take a process, a longer process for our candidates to emerge, especially for those very, very important offices. So that is one area, apart from the organization, very good, very, very beautiful, but the process itself, the way we just had it, I think we need to deepen that area for our democracy.
Well,
so I will really not say, with due respect, with profound respect to all the presidential aspirants that have emerged, I will say that it may not have been the best that we can have as a country.
Well, Dr. Ondiadai, monetization seems to be the problem. We say you want it deeper. I could recall when the legislature wanted to impose direct primaries on parties, and later we said parties should be able to choose direct or indirect. I think direct primary could be easily monetized. But can we really find a way around this? We want a deeper approach. We want a deeper system, that will give us a better selection than this. But in this part of the world, we can quickly skew the process.
I love the way you landed in this part of in this part of the world. Yeah. Nigeria today is defined or is described as the largest economy in Africa. The same Nigeria today is described as the poverty capital of the world. What a sharp contrast. Moses, there is no way you can have any better electioneering exercise in a country with predominant poor population. There is no way you can have a country, you can have a better electioneering process where the political institutions that are constitutionally established to check excesses of political elites, citizens, and all other people in that country are being rubbished. Okay. You are talking about having good electioneering. Oh, let me take you back to the last election in the United States. You know what happened in the last election in the United States was about breaking, or was going to give United States a kind of a name that has never been recorded about that country by Donald Trump. In fact, a lot of people were even making some sarcasm that this man is not an American. Maybe he's from he's a Nigerian. But his excesses was checked by what? By the strong political institutions that were put in place. In Nigeria, we place political personalities higher, superior than the political institution. And when you have a political setting of that kind, you are not going to have anything worthwhile, because the personalities, the elites, know quite sure that they can do anything and go away with it, because the institutions are being suppressed. So that is number one, weak political institution. Two, high level of poverty. Three, poor political culture. And I would say four, poor political sensitization. Any country where you have all these variables, it will be difficult, if not impossible, to have an ideal electioneering process. Yeah, like Absalom was talking about, what's it called? The money inducement. Why not? We're also talking about the option A4. Look, the structure of Nigeria, the population of Nigeria, the level of political consciousness in Nigeria at the moment is far from what we used to have then. Nigerians are more politically conscious. Nigerians are more vast as it is. There's been more of level of civilization. So, if you are going to say you want to tap from, it's not a crime to tap or draw a kind of inference from the system we had then. I really think option A4 or what have you may not even be the best. As far as I'm concerned, what we operated in the Third Republic is still the best for this country. I'm talking of two-party system. Though Nigeria is not the only country that is guilty of multi-party system on paper, but two-party system in
but technically we can say we have a two major party system.
The same thing with the United States.
We have a two major party system.
It's not just two political systems that thrive in. They have a lot of political parties in the United States. But you have just two political systems thriving.
But now
the
Republican
and
the third force.
But
a third force.
Oh,
that could bring
no,
dominance.
good. What, you are talking of third force. I love that. You see, the third force of a thing is dead on arrival.
how?
Okay, fantastic. We have some set of people. I'm talking of Pat Utomi, I'm talking of the likes of Falano and all this, who came together and said, okay, enough of all this maladministration, poor governance, we need to have a third force. This will be the first time that we talk of third force in Nigeria. I hope you remember. You remember the African Democratic Party that came up then, that Obasanjo set up in order to represent the third force. What happened eventually with with that party? Even though the personality happened to be a very strong personality. You see, third force working, I'm not ruling it out completely because I'm not a magician or a soothsayer, but you can calculate, you can predict by the structure on ground. To have a third force in a country like Nigeria will be very, very difficult due to the political adaptation, due to the structure we have put in place. And what's it called? Peter Obi has been going about trying to, convince people. He has, of course, he has been able to woo, also especially some of Nigerian youth. But the question now is, Peter Obi's his political party itself is battling with internal crisis.
Now let's come down.
And that is a party you are expected to form a third force.
No, if you look at it from that dimension, you might not, for example, you find out that at the beginning, it was the PDP that was the major force.
Yeah.
And then suddenly AC came on from AD, became ACN.
Yeah.
From ACN,
PDP was still domineering.
PDP was still domineering. Then it forged also another alliance, a coalition, CPC.
That is it.
So you find out. So what I'm trying to say is that
Let me correct an impression. I know what you're going.
Is it not too premature to say that?
No. The example you have used is quite different.
How?
Good. What happened between APC and CPC? I mean, what happened in the APC was a coalition government.
Yeah.
That was the same system we practiced in First Republic between the CPC and the NPC, Northern People's Congress, and the NCNC. Nnamdi Azikiwe and Tafawa Balewa, they formed a coalition. Now, to form a coalition is more logical.
Not a coalition, because this one now, they formed a party.
Yes. What do we call coalition government?
No. What I'm saying, you still find out that the NPC was still there, technically.
Okay.
They
didn't fuse together.
They did not fuse, but the APC was there. Okay, you are telling me that with the APC that we have now, we still don't have situation where look at during the crisis, internal crisis to the party, we began to have some kind of sentiment. The MPC, CPC are having more of this. Tinubu is saying the ACN. They began to. You probably say Okoma Lala. They began to trace their
Okay.
their lineage. But what I'm trying to say is that, okay, like I was reading somewhere where I learned Peter Obi went to meet Kwakwanso made a talk with Peter Obi or something. Well, if coalition can come up, we can talk of third force. But what I mean as third force this time around is that if you have 2-3 parties coming together, I won't be too absolute or I mean, in a consent to say such is a third force. However, yeah, if you can have something different,
The coalition.
a coalition, if you can have a coalition. But mind you, if you are also talking about coalition, the coalition you're talking about must also be a viable coalition.
Must be even spread.
Must be yeah, that's what I mean. Okay. Must be a coalition with political strength.
Okay.
So APC, I mean CPC and ACN were able to form a coalition and sent PDP packing because of 2 reasons. One, the ACN controls the Southwest. Okay. The CPC was controlling majorly some part of the North, the North. You know, maybe the Northwest as it were. Yeah. And that's the first reason. And the second reason was that Nigerians were actually fed up with the 16 years of the People's Democratic Party. So bring any idiots in 2015. Nigerians were ready to vote the person. So it is not always in the same case that, okay, because it has worked in 2015, it will work for Kwakwanso and Peter Obi. We may be living in
Let me talk about Mr. Mustafa here, and that's another very volatile issue, and that's the choice of the vice presidential candidate. Now they're talking about Muslim ticket, they're talking about Muslim Christian ticket, they're talking about, within the framework of the Nigerian context, how strong is religion and ethnicity? Now, would you support a Muslim ticket? Would you support a Muslim Christian ticket? Would you support a Christian ticket? Would you, so what's that interplay? What's your own perspective about it?
Yeah, you see, ideally, we actually shouldn't be talking about religious leanings of people, or tribal leanings, or that's the ideal situation. We should be talking about capacity. We should be talking about ability. We should be focusing on good governance, track record, antecedent, personality, who you are. That is what we should be, talking about. But this is Nigeria, and why this conversation is coming out and very loudly is because of the role we have given religion and tribal issues within the Nigerian space. Otherwise, we shouldn't be talking about that. And so, I think that we should go by the reality of our situation. Now, the reality as we have it today is that every tribe, every religion, whether Muslim, whether Christian, people want to have a sense of belonging, regardless of who is there, whether that person is even beneficial. Because I've never said I'm a Muslim, but I've never benefited from any Muslim being president of this country, any Muslim being governor of this country, or deputy governor for that matter, or anything. I have never benefited. And so that is the reason why I believe it shouldn't even be the conversation that we should be having. But because of this very strong sentiment and attachment to tribe and religion and all that, and if you don't go by that, there are consequences, because people feel alienated, even if they don't benefit anything. I mean, they are so comfortable with saying, oh, Kunle is my religion man, is my tribe man, let him just be there. Do you get the point now? So, because of that reality, I will say ideally, if you have a Muslim, let us have a Christian. It gives people a sense of belonging. It makes them feel good that, okay, I have my own person there. The consequence of not doing that sometimes is that people don't buy, you don't get the buy-in of a certain, certain section, of the country, be it tribe, be it religion, and then after the elections and all that, they start to make trouble because they don't feel that they are part of. However, let me drop this point, is that every political party that went into the primary election, that present candidates, they do so with one objective, to do what? To win the election. Okay. So, at the end of the day, we may not see it exactly the way we want it, the ideal way that I've painted, because right now, do you know what is going on? Lots of calculations, permutations. People need votes. What they are looking for at this time is vote. If Moses, if I'm going to pick Moses,
Can I quickly say something?
and I will get all the votes in Abeokuta, I would rather go for.
Well, can I say something?
I'm sure you're having at the moment.
Because it appears political atmosphere is divided along regional and religious lines. And PDP, Atiku is a Muslim, would definitely or most likely go for a Christian as a running mate in the south-south or the southeast.
That's right.
So the question is, can APC afford? When you look at the kind of strength, they want a running mate that would muster support in the northern parts of Nigeria. I know it's a difficult situation, really.
Moses, let me drop something. Who would have thought, after 8 years of President Buhari, who is a northerner, who would have thought that PDP will ever contemplate zoning or picking a candidate from the north?
The PDP would do that because the person that finished was from the south.
No. President Buhari.
Leave Buhari. Buhari is not from PDP.
No, that is not the calculation, Kule. The reason PDP actually picked their candidate from the north is to gather votes from the north, not minding that the north will be spending 16 years back to back.
Okay.
Do you get the point now? Okay. That is the current calculation of even other political parties. It's about the vote. It's about how we are.
It's about the vote.
It's about the vote. We shouldn't have it that way.
It's about the vote. The issue is this. Let me just say in 1 minute or two. You say Muslim tickets this time around, or Christian or Christian whatever. It's just supplementary factors for politicians at the moment, especially for APC. If you look at the background of how the presidential candidate of the APC emerged, you will know that except we want to fool ourselves, or except we don't want to be objective, you will say the APC should go and have Muslim, Christian ticket. Look, politics is all about permutations. Politics is all about interest.
Yeah.
Politics is all about winning election and negotiation. Okay. So, excuse me. So, if APC, look at what are we talking about? You are talking about some people have they have suggested Dogara as a Christian. Some suggested Lalong. A core northerner will be mindful of the names or personalities that you bring to them. As far as the history of Nigeria is concerned today, the Northwest has the highest voting pattern. So if you are going to mention a particular name to a core person, a villager in one particular place in Zamfara or Jigawa, and you mention Lalong, I mean, to what impact? Muslim or Christian is good governance we should talk about.
Okay, we will leave the permutations for the politicians to do, and then we will also want to bring this discussion to a close here without putting any stamp on whether it is a Muslim.
No, we are not. We are just lending our.
But just like Mr. Mustafa said, everybody is looking for votes.
Why not?
And then in the course of looking for votes, are we really practicing global? Is our democracy, can we really say within global best democratic process we can have a pass mark?
No, yeah.
No, we're already closing.
Okay. I don't want you to ask any question.
We're not going to ask any question because our time is up, but that's still the question. We would say within the best democratic process, global democratic process, would we give our democracy the pass mark? If we can't, then we've got a lot of work to do. We want to thank Dr. Kunle Alaye for coming on the set of New Dawn this morning. Zolayinka Mustafa, thank you so very much. We'll continue to deepen the democracy.
Absolutely.
We'll continue to work. You are still watching the Wednesday edition of New Dawn. When we go away now, we'll come back again shortly to bring in another guest and another topic for discussion.